According to my studies, I found out that in several important instances, Muhammad's Sunnah superseded the Quran, and that without knowledge of the Sunnah, the Quran cannot possibly be a guide to its believers. Will you elaborate?
The Sunnah is the practice and example of Muhammad, and is the second authority for Muhammadan Muslims besides the Quran. A hadith is supposed to be a reliably transmitted report of what Muhammad allegedly said, did, or approved. Belief in the divine inspiration of the Sunnah is as important in the Muhammadan Muslim faith as belief in the Quran. Sahih al-Bukhari 7.822 narrated by Al-Qama. Abdullah cursed those women who practiced tattooing, and those who removed hair from their faces, and those who created spaces between their teeth artificially to look beautiful. Such ladies as changed what Allah has created. Yaqub said, "What is that?" Abdullah said, "Why should I not curse those who were cursed by Allah's apostle and are referred to in Allah's book?" She said to him, "By Allah, I have read the whole Quran, but I have not found such a thing." Abdullah said, "By Allah, if you had read it carefully, you would have found it. Allah says, and what the apostle gives you, take it, and what he forbids you, abstain from it." Yaqub was absolutely correct to say that such a verse does not exist in the Quran. Abdullah was also correct by insisting that Muhammad's Sunnah is equal to the Quran. Sahih Bukhari 8.689 narrated by Sa'id ibn Ubadah al-Ansari that he consulted the Prophet about a vow that had been made by his mother who died without fulfilling it. The Prophet gave his verdict that he should fulfill it on her behalf. The verdict became Sunnah, i.e. the Prophet's tradition. This means that this verdict became part of Sharia law, just like the rules of the Quran, which cannot ever be changed. Sahih Bukhari 8.816 narrated by Ibn Abbas. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, "I'm afraid that after a long time has passed, people may say, we do not find the verses of the rajm, stoning to death, in the Holy Book, and consequently they may go astray by leaving an obligation that Allah has revealed. Lo, I confirm that the penalty of rajm be inflicted on him who commits illegal sexual intercourse, if he is already married and the crime is proved by witnesses or pregnancy or confession." Sufyan added, "I have memorized this narration in this way." Omar added, "Surely Allah's apostle carried out the penalty of rajm, and so did we after him." Al-Nur 24.2. The woman and the man guilty of adultery or fornication, flog each of them with 100 stripes. Let not compassion move you in their case in a matter prescribed by Allah, if you believe in Allah and the last day, and let a party of the believers witness their punishment. Dear listeners, while the Quran mandates inflicting only 100 stripes for fornication, Muhammad's Sunnah, on the other hand, punishes with death by stoning. Hence Muhammad's Sunnah supersedes the Quran. Bukhari 9.387 narrated by Abu Musa. The Prophet said, "My example and the example of what I have been sent with is that of a man who came to some people and said, 'O people, I have seen the enemy's army with my own eyes, and I am the naked warner, so protect yourselves.' Then a group of his people obeyed him and fled at night, proceeding stealthily till they were safe, while another group of them disbelieved him and stayed in their places till morning, when the army came upon them, and killed and ruined them completely. So this is the example of that person who obeys me and follows what I have brought, the Quran and the Sunnah, and the example of the one who disobeys me and disbelieves the truth I have brought. It is abundantly clear from the above that Muhammad made his deeds, sayings and rules equal to Allah's Quran." Al-Isra 17.78. Establish regular prayers at the sun's decline till the darkness of the night, Asr prayer, and the morning prayer, Fajr prayer, and reading. For the prayer and reading in the morning carry their testimony. Al-Baqarah 2.238. Guard strictly your habit of prayers, especially the middle prayer, Dhuhr prayer, and stand before Allah in a devout frame of mind. Bukhari 9.88 narrated by Talha bin Ubaidullah. A Bedouin with unkempt hair came to Allah's Apostle and said, "O Allah's Apostle, tell me what Allah has enjoined on me as regards prayers." The Prophet said, "You have to offer perfectly the 5 compulsory prayers in a day and a night of 24 hours. While the Quran in the above 2 verses stipulates 3 prayer sessions a day, Muhammad's Sunnah and practice follow 5 prayer sessions. Once more does the Sunnah overrule the Quran. Bukhari 9.381, narrated by Hudayfa. Allah's Apostle said to us, "Honesty descended from the heavens and settled in the roots of the hearts of men. And then the Quran was revealed, and the people read the Quran, and learnt from it, and also learnt it from the Sunnah. Both Quran and Sunnah strengthened their faithful believers' honesty." Our listeners should be aware that no one in Arabia ever read the Quran while Muhammad was alive, since it was only compiled in book form long after he was dead. This hadith, like tens of thousands of others, is, to put it charitably, in gross error. Bukhari 9.382, narrated by Abdullah. The best talk, speech, is Allah's book, Quran. And the best way is the way of Muhammad, his Sunnah. Bukhari 9.415, narrated by Humayd. I heard Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan delivering a sermon. He said, I heard the Prophet saying, if Allah wants to do a favor to somebody, He bestows on him the gift of understanding the Quran and my Sunnah. The Sunnah of Muhammad is deemed, in the tradition of his followers, as divinely inspired and hence equal to the Quran. That is why the fundamentalist male followers of Muhammad have remained and will continue to remain stuck in the primitive time warp of Muhammad's 7th century. The historical records prove beyond a reasonable doubt that nothing of value, intellectual, spiritual, artistic, scientific, joyful, philosophical, moral, or judicial can ever bloom under fundamentalist Muhammadan Islam. Anyone who doubts the above statements, all he or she needs to know is that the most perfect Muhammadan Muslim state was that of the Taliban in Afghanistan, a state of depraved indifference to justice, morality, and intellect, a state devoid of any joy and happiness, a state of abject tyranny and fear, a state of mind-boggling stupidity and ignorance, a state of the living dead. That the most perfect representative of a fundamentalist male Muhammadan Muslim is Osama bin Laden, who, contrary to what the media and others describe him, is not a terrorist. He is a believer who is only following the Quran and Muhammad's Sunnah. That Muhammadan Muslims of 1.3 billion, almost 20% of the human population, produce the least number of intellectual, philosophical, scientific, artistic, or spiritual books or papers in the world is only one testimony to the assertions that we make. That among about 55 countries that are either totally Muhammadan Muslim or have a majority of them are undemocratic, racist, hate-mongering, warmongering, and unjust. They treat their women, who represent more than 50% of their population, with contempt, with terror, with subjugation, with humiliation and with degradation because of the ordinances of Muhammad's Quran and his Sunnah. As we have shown repeatedly that all the above anomalies, absurdities, inconsistencies, and abnormalities can only make sense when the listeners realize that both the Quran and the Sunnah are the product of Muhammad's own alter ego and have absolutely nothing to do with Allah or Gabriel, who are used only as props by Muhammad to give his alleged revelations and speech divine sanction.